Well, thanks for staying with us wherever you're watching from around the world. We are live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. We consider the state of the nation, and my guest, an activist, is also the spokesman of the social cultural group, Ferry, and he has actually just made a very controversial statement. He has declared that Nigeria is broke. We do not know how true, but let's cross over live to Enugu, where Ambrose Igboke is standing by to speak with us from Enugu, the cold city. Ambrose, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. The spokesman of Ferry says that Nigeria is broke. Is that a view you share?
Well, when you say someone is broke, what is the actual meaning of someone is broke? Well, from my own little elementary economics, when you are broke, it means you don't even have profits. Then, when you are sliding into recession, it means you have deficits. So it's a different thing to not even have profits. You can still be afloat. But when you are going into recession, it means you are accumulating deficit in Nigeria. It's normal. We have been doing that. But this time around, we have slid down below the ladder. Because what has happened over the last 5 to 6 years is that there have been inconsistent economic policies. In fact, we don't even have a homegrown economic policy that we can lay our hands on and say, this is it. We remember during the Obasanjo era, 1999 to 2007, we have the NEETS, the National Economic Power Strategy, Development Strategy, which states developed their own called seats. Jonathan had a semblance of also economic policy. But when he came here, we started having RPG and all kinds of scattered economic policies. Then we woke up one day, sometime in August last year, in the midst of all our economic woes, we set up, we woke up, closed our borders unilaterally without the consent of our neighboring countries whom we signed a trade deal with in the name of ECOWAS. That further, destroyed the little economic progress we've made in the last 4 years. So what are the consequences of just waking up one day and closing your border? And mind you, this border is not just land border for the sake of land border. Many of our sea imports through the ports, through the seaports, come from the Cotonou, come from Togo, and come from Cote d'Ivoire. That corridor, West Africa corridor. We just woke up one day and closed it off. I don't know what kind of economics explain that kind of decision. Then when you come to, then they started celebrating negligible successes. You said that the farmers, especially rice farmers, are smiling to the bank. Then what is, when you look at it, what is the economic comparative analysis of a small section of the country smiling to the bank and the rest of the citizens are paying more for it? Before the ban, before the closure of the border, a bag of rice was selling between 80,000 naira to 22,000 naira, depending on the brand and where you are buying it from. Then all of a sudden, it's counted into an abominable price regime. And then we say we are making progress. How can you be making progress when your prices of goods have become inflammatory and inflation has increased? And then the naira has kept falling. The same people who closed the border are signing agreements with Niger Republic to import fuel through the land borders again. When you check all this, you start wondering if we are not practicing what I call true economics. Because that is the only way it's magical. There's no systemic approach. There's no what you call strategic logic. to plans, economic plans in this country. So we keep floating like the sounds and sound of society. We have no vision, we have no direction. It seems we are the economy by impulse. And when you do that, then you won't go far.
Well, Ambrose, let's stray away from the economy for a moment and talk about the issue of the FGR impasse. It does appear that we finally have an agreement. Are you optimistic about this? I mean, because several agreements have always been signed, MOUs and all of that.
Okay, you're talking about the agreement with ASU. Are you talking about the FG agreement with ASU? Well, if you are talking about the FG,
you can hear me loud and clear. I said it does appear we finally have an agreement between the federal government and ASU. Are you optimistic about this? Because in the past, several agreements have been signed and MOUs and all of that. Can the federal government be trusted?
No, the federal government cannot be trusted. We have been on this same cycle since more than 25 years. So it is a characteristic of the government not to honor its agreements with unions, especially ASU. I mean, in 2009, there was a groundbreaking agreement with the federal government that would have put to page all these incessant strikes by ASU. And then the government woke up one day and said, we didn't make the agreement with you. As if the Nigerian government is not a continuum. So this issue of it was not in our regime that you made that government doesn't hold water. So government is a continuum, and any agreement that has been reached with the previous administration must be honored by current administration. Because if the current administration is also dependent on past policies of government to earn revenue and to consolidate its power, then it's at the same breath also honor all the agreements, whether it favors it or not. Now, also in the past, since that 2009, has been having these issues, current issues. If ASU calls off this strike based on promises and not implementation, then I won't be surprised if they go another strike, because that has been the pattern. So a government that is that is going through economic recession, does it have capacity to actually pay up? So that is the dilemma we are having here. So ASU should insist that the federal government should use that money. They are not asking for so much fund. If you think of how much that's budgeted for ASU clean, ASU run cleaning, for example, how much that is budgeted for the National Assembly, how much that is budgeted for less impactful parastatals and agencies, then it behoves the federal government to actually prioritize education and monitor the progress of disbursement and ensure that education is properly funded, especially tertiary education in this country. If we don't do that, then we are just
so much for speaking with us tonight. We are indeed pressed for time, so we have to let you go. But thank you so much for speaking with Galaxy TV public affairs analyst from Enugu, the coal city, Ambrose Igboke, live for us. That you're watching Firecrackers. Let's come back now and continue with my guests here in the studio.